Hello there, fellow humans, and welcome to another bundle review. And today I'm going to look at the K91 and the Emil 1951, which is a really weird combination. But anyway, first of all, let's look at the K91 because, I mean, this one's a somewhat clear winner, I guess. But the problem with tier 9s is the tier 9 doesn't quite make as many credits as a tier 8. So getting a tier 9 premium tanks doesn't really have any advantage besides it being more expensive, and that's not an advantage. So that's not great, but 10k for this one seems a bit excessive, yet still reasonable. So if you were to want a tier 9 premium vehicle, then this or the MX-30 are your best options. So there is that. Now the Emil 1951 is a bit more complicated, so let's look at that a bit more in depth. And for 8.5k gold, I wouldn't buy this vehicle. So what we have here is essentially an upgraded version of the regular ML1, even though it's not upgraded by that much. I mean, it is slightly more penetration by a couple of millimeters. The accuracy is also unnoticeably better, like 2%. You can see the difference on paper, but you won't notice the difference in game. You might notice a difference in dispersion. That's the one thing that might be notable. Now, the mobility on the ML1 is significantly worse. However, it has the special speed boost, whatever you call it, so it does sort of cancel that out in a way at sometimes if you do use that properly and you use it at the right time. And the traverse speed is the biggest downside of the regular ML1. So essentially, the Emil 1951 is slightly better in terms of mobility and DPM. However, it is massively worse in its armor. So let's have a look at that. So here we go, Emil 1951. And obviously the thing is, lower plate's a weak spot, as on any tank. The sides are also relatively weak, only 35 millimeters, and you have this bulge here, which mounts the turret, which means side scraping is not going to happen. So you also have 244mm here, which means a T-34 can pin this with ease, and also tank destroyers can. Top plate, relatively weak as well, 200mm, you can go through here, it is not very big. Turret is only 220mm, so pretty much any tier 8 that is equipped with some decent penetration will be able to actually pen this, and tier 7s with premium rounds will be able to pen this as well, while the ML1, that is not the case. Now, if you use a full gun depression, some tanks can still pen you, especially tier 9s. They're still going to go butter straight through, whereas in the ML1, you will still have some protection. Whereas with this one, you don't. So that is the biggest downside of the ML1, whereas I don't really recommend this thing, because the ML1 is built around the hold down playstyle, you know, hide everything and use your turret armor. And then you go to the Emil 1951 and you can't do that because everyone's going to pen your turret anyway if they have any decent penetration and brain. So, yeah, I don't know about that. But nonetheless, despite its comparison to the ML1 being a bit wonky, it remains still a strong vehicle. So with that said, let's go into the K91, and then for the Emil 1951, I'm going to have to switch to NA because I don't own it here. I don't know why I have it on NA either, but I do know that if you enjoyed the video, you shouldn't forget to like and subscribe. So now here we go with the K91, and it is a tier 10 battle, which, that's not that bad. Now, pretty much the way I could describe this thing is this one would be a better fit for the T57 heavy line, because the T54 E1 is absolute garbage. So you could put this into place and it would make more sense than whatever current piece of garbage there is in there right now. So that's about what you're shooting for here. You have a sort of kind of T57 heavy style vehicle at tier 9, which is not too bad actually, and it does also make credits, so that is pretty nice. Now 1050 alpha damage, which is solid enough. Now the intra clip is 3.5. That is the biggest downside of this vehicle, because 3.5 seconds is really, really bad for an autoloader. And yeah, everything above that barely even qualifies as an autoloader anymore, because if your intra-clip reload is longer than the reload of some medium tanks, you're not an autoloader anymore at that point. You're just a funky regular gun. Looking at you, Fosh. So, at that point, what do you do with this tank? Well, ideally, the armor isn't the greatest. You have some turret armor. The hull armor is sometimes effective, so basically, don't rely on it. That's what my advice is with this vehicle, is don't rely on the armor too much. It can be effective, but it is effective when it chooses to. So, if you go in a somewhat hold-down position, you can use it. Side scraping is not the greatest for it either. However, it can work out in certain cases. Alright, now, the Kronwagen is obviously going to be a problem, because that vehicle does one thing, and that is sit in a corner and clip. Now we have to avoid that. Obviously, the best way to counter a Kronvang is to play fast around it, because it can't do that. So let's try and do that. Let's try and flank him as well, because obviously if he's being attacked from two sides, there is nothing he can do about it. Alright. Is he surrendering or something? No, he's just rushing into my allies, which is definitely the best thing to do, not. Alright, T100 and the Leopard are relatively low. The Jagdtiger is still back there. So, here we go. Well, the Kronvang's a bit mad at the FV, I think. Alright, here we go. T100, you're not playing it well, my man. You have the speed, you gotta use it. Now, the T100 LT is not OP, obviously. You still need to have some sort of brain to play it. So, that is not the case there. And the team is raging, which... Cool. Alright, I have a YouTuber in team. Hello there, I can see you! Alright. Anyway, let's now try to go for the Leopard and also the Jagdtiger. Let's have a look. Martimator. Yeah, that's my name. That's me. Alright, here we go. The Jagdtiger won't be a problem here. He's activating his speed boost, but the house is so tiny that he ain't gonna get around in time. To avoid me and the KPZ, so goodbye. That's how it goes, and now the Jagdtiger went up there, which means very easy clip. The KPZ is still reloading. He might even die, but he's just going to show me his side and gift me this kill. And there we go, that's the K91. Pretty decent gameplay with the 3,500 damage. But yeah, that is the K91. So, it is not a definite recommendation for this vehicle for grinding credits, but if you are looking for a competitive T9, this can be a good option. 1951. Now, obviously the problem with this thing is if enrichment is discounted and you just enrich the regular ML1, you'll probably have a better experience, especially if you're not a very high-performing player. And because obviously this thing, essentially, for what it's supposed to do, completely lacks armor. So, that's not great. Now, it's a tier 7 battle, so it's going to be somewhat easier. But a lot of them will be still able to penetrate the turret with their premium ammo. So, that is not very good if you get penned by pretty much anything. Alright, here we go. He didn't pen that because he's got 190 pen or something like that, so that's not good for him. Alright, now we're going to have to obviously watch out because the sides of the turret are butter. So only the front is really effective. So let's see if we can get the third shot off again as well. There we go. Alright, there's 3 shots of damage already done, and now we're going to have to pull back and wait for the reload. Now, obviously, unfortunately, we're going to have to compensate for one player here because we're playing 6 vs 7. However, that should not be that much of a problem. I can't clip the Kunzenpanzer. I would wish I could, but I can't, unfortunately. But I'll try anyway to do as much damage to him as possible. He's obviously going to disappear and run away. So let's try to use the Lancer instead, but the accuracy on these vehicles is not any good, so that is unfortunate. Alright, T95, the Kunze just shot. If I'm fast enough, I'm not fast enough. Kunze's gonna reload now. Yeah, he's never mind, he's all the way. He's alright, he's screaming, I guess. Now, 2 heavies are in the city, but that's not my problem. If you put this vehicle in a city, if you put this thing in a flat city, like, what the hell are you doing? This is made for gun depression, this is made to play in the hills. So, yeah, just because it's a heavy doesn't mean it belongs in the city. Most heavies don't belong in the city anyway. Okay, unload onto this guy. High roll. Guns is gonna shoot me in the side, probably. Yep, he tried. Yeah, they're not doing a good job here. Now, the problem with this thing is it has armor if the enemy doesn't know what they're doing, which is the case a lot of times. However, compared to a TF-42, I do feel the price is somewhat a bit excessive because it just makes this thing harder to play. So if it was sold for 7k, I think it would be a pretty good deal. However, what it is, 8.5. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that. So, let's have a look. Let's try and clip T-34 here. Should be relatively easy to turtle. Might even get the reload off. Never mind. Oh well. It's just a turtle. So, there is that. Now, the Tiger has awoken, which is good. You're in the city, turtle. I'm not helping you. Okay, now, Tiger. I'm going to activate the speed boost again. I don't actually know if this thing has the premium speed boost. It might have. But like overall, it's a good tank. It's just you should buy this when you can have the regular Emil as well that you can get for free. But at that point, if you don't want to grind the Emil one, you can buy this one. So that is not too bad of a choice, I guess. It's definitely a better choice than buying a turtle, for example. So that definitely has to be said. Alright, 4k damage. But then again, this is the NA server, so... yeah. He's also... yeah, he's getting pushed by 3 people from one side, and then he's turning around to the other side, where I am, and I'm not pushing him. NA in a nutshell. But, let's see. We can't get it. Nope, but that's 4,200 damage. That is a pretty solid result, I think. But, you know, you have to keep in mind it's NA. So, there is that. But yeah. Overall, what I would say is if you can afford it, if you do want them, and if you are experienced with autoloaders, then it can be a solid bundle, right? However, in terms of actual usability, and if you only buy a few premium tanks, if you don't have a lot of money to spend on the game, I would not recommend it. Only if you got a lot of money to burn, and if you are interested in autoloaders like this, I would recommend it at that point. So, because they're pretty decent tanks, I guess. So, with that said, thank you very much for watching. See you in the next one. Goodbye.